out of North Carolina. This is from the North Carolina GOP. And I thought this was interesting because I said the North Carolina GOP is going to present evidence in federal court of the NAACP and Democrat leaders using voter suppression. What is this about? This is a leader in Lee County Democrat Party calling on their supporters to bring weapons like baseball bats to polling sites. Where did we see this before? Remember, we had polling sites in Chicago where we had the new Black Panthers show up and intimidate people. You know, if you're going to show up and you're white, hey, you might be voting against Obama, so get out of here before I hit you with a baseball bat. And then, of course, Obama's Attorney General says, nothing to see here. Eric Holder says, we're not going to prosecute that. No, that's nothing to worry about. So that's the kind of corruption that we've got at the top. That's what we're seeing from FBI Director Comey as well. This is Margaret Murchison, who is a leader in the Lee County Democrat Party calling on supporters to bring weapons. This is an attempt to stop voter information from being distributed about veterans who are running for office, okay? So they don't want you to know that that veterans are running for office. You might want to vote for somebody because they're a military veteran, but no. Somebody shows up telling you about veterans who are running for office, run them off with a baseball bat. She says, we need enough volunteers at both sites and also on Election Day to, uppercase, screaming, nip this in the bud, even if it means a baseball bat is necessary, she says. Okay? So there you go. See, when you tolerate the kind of corruption that we had with Attorney General Eric Holder letting the new Black Panthers run people off of polling sites with baseball bats, then it spreads to Carolina. It's corruption. It's the rotting. It begins at the head, right? The fish rots from the head down. That's what we've always seen. Now, let's take a look at some other metrics that are coming out, some other positive news that is coming out. We see, of course, Drudge was on top of this. He pointed out Democrats widen their lead over GOP in Florida early votes. This is from Politico. And they talk about how Florida Democrats increased their lead over Republicans in casting pre-election day ballots to nearly 33,000 as of Sunday morning, rather. So this is Politico, which is thoroughly in the Hillary Clinton camp. So happy about the fact that they have a 33,000 vote of Republicans versus Democrats in terms of absentee ballots that have been mailed back in. But not so fast. Because let's take a look at this, and let's look at the metrics involved here. And as Drudge has at the top of the Drudge Report, he points out that in Florida, let's do Florida first, because he's got one about Florida, he's got another one about North Carolina. He says in Florida, Trump outperforms Romney by 130,000 in early votes. So think about this, okay? Here's the issue, both in Florida and in North Carolina. When they turn in the ballots, the absentee ballots, that is always heavily Democrat. Mitt Romney went into Election Day with a deficit of 161,000 in absentee ballots. And the fact that the Democrats have about 33,000 edge on Trump is not good news, Politico. That means that Trump is outperforming Mitt Romney by about 130,000. Welcome back to our live 52-hour broadcast, election coverage. I'm David Knight. I'll be here the rest of this hour, and the next hour, then we'll be joined by Anthony Gucciardi and Dr. Group. Following them, I think we'll have Rob Dew, also having as a guest Stefan Molyneux, who was on earlier with Alex Jones, but he'll be back for more in-depth coverage with Rob Dew. And we'll have the entire staff coming through here for the next 52 hours. Very important time that we're facing here as a country. That's why we're covering this live. As I was saying just before we went to break, we look at the top of Drudge, and we look at these metrics coming out of Florida and North Carolina. And as I said before, North Carolina, it didn't turn red because of Reagan. He moved them in that direction, but it was Obama who turned North Carolina red. North Carolina voted for Obama in 2008, but they voted for Romney in 2012. And now we see that Donald Trump is outperforming Romney, who won in North Carolina. Now, we look at the absentee ballots that come in. They're not going to give us results as to how people voted, but they're simply looking at this point as to how many Democrat ballots have been returned, how many Republican ballots have been returned. And they're looking at that in North Carolina and in Florida. So here's the situation. At this point, 4 years ago, Romney was down by 447,000. So there's 447,000 more Democrat ballots than Republican ballots. And understand, the Democrats do far more mail-in of ballots, whether that's their real ballots or whether that's just the way the Democrat machine works. But they do far more mail-in ballots. The Republicans tend to go in and vote on Election Day. So at this point, 4 years ago, Romney was down by 447,000, but he still won by 97,000. He still won North Carolina, even though he started out before Election Day down by nearly 450,000. He won by 100,000 on Election Day. Trump now is only down 305,000. In other words, he's outperforming where Romney was 4 years ago by 142,000. And Romney won 4 years ago by 100,000. So far, Trump is doing better. And that's what we've seen everywhere. We've seen that we've had record turnout following Donald Trump. That's the fundamental flaw with all of these analyses that are being done by people like Nate Silver with 538. So this is the way that they're missing this metric. They don't have any way to measure enthusiasm. They ought to take a look at the number of small contributions made to Donald Trump. They ought to take a look at the number of people who have registered for the first time, the number of people who have switched their registration from Democrat to Republican in Democrat states. They ought to look at the crowd sizes, but they ignore everything, including social media. And they focus simply on their own internal polls. And I have to say, when we look at every single metric, even silly ones like the number of Halloween masks or which standee does the monkey kiss? You know, does the standee in China, you have this Chinese monkey that kisses Donald Trump or kisses Hillary Clinton. Well, you know, why wouldn't that be as important a metric as the phony media that gives Hillary Clinton a big hug and a kiss? I mean, the Chinese monkey is every bit as valid as the mainstream media, quite frankly. But when we look at what's going on in Florida, again, Romney was down 161,000 at this point with mail-in ballots, Democrat versus Republican. He went on to lose by 74,000 Florida last time. Trump now is down by just 33,000. Not 161,000, but just 33,000. In other words, he's outperforming Romney by 130,000. And remember, the difference between the two last time was 74,000. All right, we're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break.